The you do comes at the very end of the lesson. It's what the students, they're the you in the lesson, what they are doing. So this is what you want to start with the end in mind when you're thinking about your lesson. What is it that you want the students to be able to do and show by the end of the lesson? And then all of your lesson parts, everything that you're doing during the lesson has to align to that. So you're providing opportunities for them to learn about, to practice, to get feedback on what they need to be able to do by the end of the lesson. So here are just some examples of you do. You can see here, you do not want to be something that you're just grading and everyone gets the same grade. You want to make sure that students really understand what the purpose of it was, so how everything works together. So you can see these are all different images to really think about how the you do aligns to everything that is happening in the lesson and that students get feedback on their understanding during the lesson. So the you do is not at the end of the lesson, you've done a whole lot of work with the students, they've gotten all this feedback, and then all of a sudden you give them another worksheet to do or a whole quiz of problems to do. That you'll see the students express frustration and get very upset because they sort of feel like the you do is coming at the end. So if you almost imagine like it's a roller coaster ride and they've gone up and now they're coasting to the end. And if you give them something big to do at the end, it's all of a sudden like they're going back up the roller coaster. It is not something where you're just saying in general, give me a thumbs up if you like the lesson. And it is definitely not something that you want to skip if you run out of time. This is your chance to understand what each student individually can do. And the goal is that it's going to inform you on how you want to plan your lesson the next day. So it's not something you have to enter in the grade book. It's not something that you have to go in depth on. It is a quick check just to say, like, do I have everybody with me? So this is a check that matches the thinking skill. So if in the whole lesson you've had students explaining in words, in writing, to really show their understanding of a math concept, in the final check, they should be explaining. It's not just if you said, what is 6 plus 8 and they put 14 down, they're not explaining the strategy that they did, where you might want to say, I did, 6 plus 6 and added 2, or I knew that 6 plus 10 was 16 and I took away 2. Whatever it is that they're doing during the lesson to explain their understanding, you want to do it here. So it has to be very similar to how they demonstrate understanding and get feedback during the lesson. Again, very quick snapshot. And then you want to have some criteria so you can think about how you're going to sort students into what they understand. So you might have students that completely get it, that partially get it, that don't get it at all. So the goal is that you're not saying with 80% accuracy as if that will work for every lesson. So it might be that you've, asked 2 problems. If you're just looking at if they got it right or wrong, then that can be easily, got both right, got one right, got no right. But what you hopefully are also looking at is their understanding of how they got it right. So the why behind what they did. So that might be got it right and showed their work, or got it right and provided a model of what their thinking was. So you're thinking about those different parts. So again, you're going to be sorting your students into different piles based upon the errors that they make. So that's what you're going to have clear criteria that you want to put down to capture those possible points of confusion. So this is an example of a weak one. You can see there's 2, they're both having the same graphs. What is the label for the x-axis? What's the label for the y? And 80% proficiency. So that's not asking in-depth understanding of the graph, probably not aligning to what happened during the lesson, where they asked more about a reading of the graph. And that 80% proficiency doesn't mean anything in terms of how you would analyze it. So this one you want to look for, this student said in her you do part of the lesson, said, she's saying to the students, excellent analysis. Now you're going to have one last graph to analyze on your own to put together everything. So this is going to be her final exit ticket. So again, provides a graph and then just says how many people own cats, how many more people own goldfish than rabbits. So her criteria here is that she has the correct numbers, labels, and they're showing their thinking. So, and then you might want to tweak it. So a correct numbers, but missing some labels. So that's just like a minor problem. Or a partial credit might be missing some numbers or labels or showing their thinking. And the students are really going to need support if they didn't do anything or they show significant confusion. So you can almost imagine you have a pile of these exit tickets in your hand and you're going to be sorting them into piles. So by the end, you want to be able to say, out of my 20 students, you want to be able to say 16 out of 20 have full credit and completely got it. 1 out of the 20 just missed the labels. So they had all the numbers and they showed their work, but they just missed some labels. Or you want to say, 1 out of the 20 also had an error, but could see they basically understood it. And then you're going to say 2 out of the 20 really, left something blank or didn't do it at all. So you want to be analyzing who's in those piles and what they're able to do in each part.